Reading from Bhagavad Gita 8.5. The chapter title is Attaining the Supreme. Yam. One second. This. Yam. Yam. Vapi. Smaran bhavam. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tam
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 eveti
evaiti
kaunteya.
kaunteya.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Sada
Sada
tad
tat
bhava
bhava
bhavitaha.
bhavitaha.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
Tyajati ante kalevaram.
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya.
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
Sada tadbhava bhavitaha.
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
यम यम वापि स्मरन् भावं
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
त्यजति अन्ते कलेवरं
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
सदा तद्भावभावितः
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
यम यम वापि स्मरण भावम
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
त्यजते अन्ते कलेवरम
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
तम तम एवेति कौन्तेय
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
सदा तद्भाव भावितः
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
त्यजते अन्ते कलेवरं
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
सदा तद्भावभावितः
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
यम यम वापि स्मरन् भावं
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
त्यजते अन्ते कलेवरं
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
Tam tam eveti kaunteya.
सदा तद्भावभावितः
Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
यम यम वापि स्मरन् भावं
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam.
त्यजते अन्ते कलेवरं
Tyajate ante kalevaram.
तं तं एवेति कौन्तेय
Tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitaha
यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं
yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजते यन्ते कलेवरं
tyajate ante kalevaram
तं तं मे वैति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitaha
यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावन्
yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजति अन्ते कलेवरं
tyajate ante kalevaram
तं तं ये वैति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitaha yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजयन्ते कलेवरं
tyajate ante kalevaram
तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावं भावितः
sada tadbhavam bhavitaha synopsis yam yam whatever va either api also smaran remembering bhavam nature tyajate give up ante at the end kalevaram this body tam tam similar eva certainly iti gets kaunteya o son of kunti sada always tat that bhava state of being bhavitaha remembering translation whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body that state he will attain without fail translation with repetition whatever state Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna yeah purport by Srila Prabhupada the process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharata thought of a deer at the time of death and so was transferred to that form of life. However, as a deer, Maharaj Bharata could remember his past activities. Of course, the cumulative effect of the thoughts and action of one's life influences one's thought at the moment of death. Therefore, the actions of this life determines one's future state of being. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not physical. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being to transcendental life. Thus ends the purport of Prabhupada. Jam Vishnupad Paramahams Acharya Ashtutar Divine Grace Abhay Chanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauranam Chani Sheshna Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter Krishna is explaining how do we attain the supreme Means how do we attain Krishna or enter the abode of Krishna? So in this is a very interesting that to understand that how the body changes. There is example of Maharaj Bharat in purport. Prabhupada explains. Maharaj Bharat means he was a son of Supreme Lord Rishabdev, and he just left his kingdom at a very tender age of 24 or young age for self-realization. But he also fall in a trap. It is said in Bhagavatam that he had reached till the stage of bhava. Bhava is like a very advanced stage. Means our stage is not even nista, ruchi. We have not crossed that level, but he has crossed the level of bhava. And even acharyas say that spiritual life is like a walking in a razor sharp edge blade. Little mistake, gone. Maharaj Bharata, he had achieved the stage of bhava, and that stage was also not so. It was tilting, because till we reach the stage of prema, that is the ultimate. Then that stage there is no fall down. But even the stage of bhava, we may fall down. But he got opportunity. He was able to remember his past life, and in that way, he progressed towards devotional life. So in today's class, we'll understand what is this change of process, how this life, means how do we understand that, how this jiva transmigrates from one body to another. Let us start with like this whole life is nothing but a journey. It's like a journey, and in this journey, as usual we see like there's a destination is fixed. Whenever we travel from one destination to A to B, we know the destination clearly. But when it comes to our own life, we don't know what is our destination, in the sense, what is my next life? That we are always in perplexed condition. We don't know what is that. So it's nothing but a life is nothing but journey from B to D. B is birth and to death. So in this journey, we always like we carry something. We carry experiences or memories. Like I may carry my childhood memories and all. And many times what happens to us is like we lament for the past. We don't live in the present stage. Many cases, even they have done research that we don't live in our present life. Either we lament of our past or we think about our future. Thinking that in future I'll have a comfortable state of being. But this journey is such that there's no chance that we'll have always in comfortable state. Even Krishna says this whole material world is like a dukhalem ashashvatam. It's a place of misery with always, and it is temporary. It's not permanent. Prabhupada very nicely writes in the purport that there's a statement, if you can focus on this important statement: cumulative effect of the thoughts and actions of one's life influence one's thought at the moment of death. Therefore, the action of this life determines one's future state of being. Prabhupada is saying that directly, is saying that whatever deeds we do this life, whatever activities, either it may be pious or impious, it's going to decide my future life. Just like I've seen many times in our North Indian shops, they will have the father will be seated in the shop from age 25 to till 50, 60. If you tell him to retire, he'll not retire. He'll be in that state only, because he'll always be seated in that seat only, because that attachment has become very strong. And if you tell him go do some other activities, it will not happen. The same way, the thought process which you have carried in the whole life, it will determine what is our next life. It's like if you are attached to something whole life and we are pursuing for that, and the next life also it will be determined by the material nature, the same pursuit what you have gone through. In Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, there's a describes about how this soul, this jiva, enters into a womb of mother and what type of tribulation it goes through. Because it's very important to understand this aspect. If you want to be serious in spiritual life, if you don't want to be serious, then it's a different subject matter. But if you want to be serious in bhakti, then this aspect has to be understood. Because modern science will not understand this things like we think, oh, but children, if some child comes out, we'll be very happy. Oh, it's joyous. But we don't understand what are the tribulation which a child undergoes in the womb of a mother. So this is very nicely explained in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Third canto is a description of all different varieties of questions by Vidura. Vidura is a great sage and he leaves the kingdom because Duryodhana insults him. So and he goes for a pilgrimage. And in that context, he meets the great sage Maitreya Rishi. And in that process, he asks many varieties of questions. In that context, there is a beautiful description of how Lord Kapila appeared. He is the son of Kardama Muni. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a description of Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila. So she is the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, not an ordinary girl, ordinary lady. She is a princess. And she is asking varieties of questions to Lord Kapila. So she's very humbly she is asking to her son. Usually it's very rare to find in this word that mother asks her son for some spiritual enlightenment. But here you will see how Mother Devahuti, she is asking her son that please enlighten me, because she was lamenting because she had got the association of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni is a great transcendentalist. The fortune of Devahuti was so that even Kardama Muni, he was in under the influence of internal energy, and he performed severe austerity and pleased Narayana, Lord Vishnu, and had contact, or he had close darshan of the Supreme Lord. And Lord had benedicted him all. And Devahuti was lamenting because she could not appreciate that association, or she did not. She was thinking in a material way. She wanted son, she wanted daughter, progeny. But in that course of time, she did not ask the transcendental subject matter to Kardama Muni. So here is a very beautiful description where Kapil Dev is explaining how this jiva, which enters into the womb of a mother, and what type of tribulation it goes through. So I'll just tell you that. So there is a verse, first verse, it starts with Karmana Deva Netrina. So there is a description Prabhupada translates. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. So we human being, it's very rare, human life. It is said Manushyana, even it's very, it's like the verse, we get after 84 lakh species, this human life is very rare because it's like a cycle. We have gone through 84 lakh species of life, then we have got this human form of life. And so in that human form of life also, it's very rare to achieve the association of pure devotees. So here you'll see how this living entity enters into the womb of a mother, how he enters. So there is a beautiful description of each and every day how this fetus grows. So in the first night is in the fifth it mixes with a woman and swarm, and at the fifth night it ferments. It's like we keep idli batter at home, right? Night it gets fermented, right? The same bubble forms. The same way this soul also goes through transformation. In the 10th day it forms like a plum, and gradually it forms like a flesh, like a lump of flesh in the womb of a mother. And Bhagavatam gives such a pictorial representation. Even that fact is proven in the modern science, like by modern technology like CT scan and all. So it matches same data. And so in the first month, the head is formed. in the womb of the mother. And in the second month, the hands are formed, feet are formed, and other limbs are, means there are different shapes it takes, body goes through. And at the end of third month, nails, finger, toes, hair, so the fetus develops that all. And many apertures of eye, nostril, and all gets developed. And at the end of fourth month, other ingredients gradually develop, like blood, flesh, fat, all comes into existence. And when the child who is in the womb of mother, at the fifth month, it starts feeling hunger and thirst, like we feel hunger and thirst. The same way this child or fetus who is in the womb of a mother, he feels hunger and thirst. And sixth month, we usually many a times they have celebration like the child turns to right side. So people celebrate, oh, child is. And Bhagavatam gives what it brings out. The point is in this stage. So this child who is in the womb of a mother, a fetus who is in the womb of mother, he is covered with stool, urine. In our stage, when you see some abominable things like obnoxious things outside, we think, oh, it's very smelling very bad. We are not able to tolerate that. But imagine we were in the state when we were in the fetus of mother. When we were in the womb of a mother, we had tolerated that for more than 6 months, 1 year. And in that stage, it's bitten by worm, because that skin is very tender, right? It's very tender. Just like our hand, if there is a cut or there's a burn, and some worms attacks us or some ants are biting us, we feel heavy pain, right? Just imagine the state of the fetus who is in the womb of a mother, such a terrible pain. But the Maya is so strong, it makes us forget. Further it goes. Bhagavatam gives clear picture, it's not hides data. It suffers terrible pain in the womb of a mother. The stage Bhagavatam says is like it becomes unconscious, fully in unconscious state. Not just one time, repeatedly. And when usually mother, they like, even everyone likes to eat chaat masala, some chatpata and all those things, right? And when the baby is in the womb, means even if they eat some pani puri or some spicy or chili things more, that affects heavily in the fetus, the child in the womb. It gets even highly tortured. It says that it becomes such a unconscious stage. It's like it is a fresh flesh. It's like a lump of flesh. And if you put some chili powder, that it's like heavy pain. So in that suffering condition, we all have gone through that state. It's not that we have just this is like science fi or this like some scientific, some fictitious. No, we all have gone through that, but Kala has made us to forget that. So in that state, this jiva, this who is there in the womb of a mother, means some good fortune. Bhagavatam says if he has some good fortune, it folded hands, it prays, because such a terrible stage it is means that jiva is there in that womb of a mother. So it's constantly prays to the Supreme Lord. And that stage, Supreme Lord makes him see his past 100 lives. It's like a flashback. Bhagavatam gives the flashback. That whole 100 life, he sees all flashback. So what has gone through, what are sinful activities he has performed, what are impious activities like killing animals, those all things are shown to that jiva. So it's a very terrible state we are in that stage. But we have forgotten that, because the time makes us forget, or this Maya illusion is so powerful, it makes us forget. So there's a beautiful prayer which was offered by this child in the womb of a mother. So in that very usually if you give simple example, like if we have been packed in a airtight bag for even just for 5 minutes, we cannot survive. We'll just die. But see the mercy of the Supreme Lord. In that state also, Lord is there. He is there in that filthy place also. He is there just to give like a protection. Somehow you turn my face, turn your face towards me. So Lord is there in that state also. So he offers beautiful prayer. I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, who appears in his various eternal form, walks on the surface of the world. So that's the reason Bhagavad Gita is Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tvektva deham punar janma neti mameti so arjuna. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, whoever just remembers the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, like Krishna's various leelas, like childhood leelas, killing of Putana and all, when in truth, not just in a sentimental way, no, in truth, he can cross over this cycle of birth and death. So Lord had performed many varieties of leela. That's the reason Lord appears here in this material world, to show this like us unfortunate soul can get attracted to the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Once if we are attracted with that pastimes, this mind is like the verse says that yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. It's whatever state of being, whatever thing we, just like this mind thinks always about night in different dimensions, about favorable situations. If this mind is engaged in the service of the Lord, if it is thinking about the Supreme Lord's various pastimes, the next life, Prabhupada translates in the purport that he'll 100% sure he'll attain spiritual life, or he'll go back home, back to Godhead. And further he prays that I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. Why we have been put in that condition? Question me. Because of our impious activities. There's no other cause. We cannot blame Supreme Lord. It's just Lord has given us free will, and in that free will we have taken advantage of that, and we have done all impious activities, and that's the reason we are put in the very abominable stage. Not just one life, for 100, and it is continuing. It's not there is a stop. Many times we ask people कि भाई भगवान के लिए सेवा करो, थोड़ा दक्षिणा दे दो, कुछ सेवा करो. हम प्रभु जी करेंगे and they try to somehow pass. अरे प्रभु जी क्या है? But just imagine the fortune of serving the Supreme Lord. A small donation or something, it is like a greatest boon. When Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Salpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Just a small service done for the Supreme Lord, it can save you from the greatest danger, the cycle of repeated birth and death. And further Prabhupada explains, so this is where he prays. And Prabhupada brings very interesting point in purport. How we forget after we go through that tribulation. After birth, the child may forget about the difficulties of his past life. But when we grow up, when we are grown up, we can at least understand the grievous torture undergone at birth and death by reading the authorized scripture like Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the reason this Bhagavatam, which acharyas have given, is most important. When we are in the child stage, we may forget because of usually it is said like Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings a song, Bhuliya Tumhare Samsare Asiya. So in that he gives a pictorial presentation of how we forget the Supreme Lord in each stage of life. Like in childhood, when child starts crying when he comes out of the womb of the mother, all family members, they're very happy. There's like a celebration. Yes, and they embrace him. In that process, the child forgets because he gets very much attached to his family, relatives, and all. Bhagavatam even further says that I forgot to mention that when child when he's in the lap of his mother, he very tender child. So when he is sleeping in the bed, sometimes because of sweat, and some, so there are worms which bites him. So he's in at that stage, he starts crying, but parents are in that stage, they are not able to understand what what he wants. There is a itching going on, but they'll think, oh, we have to feed him. So even the parents does not know what is the solution for his problem. And he continues crying, crying, crying. So here it said that with this scripture, even this month is a marathon month. So if we can distribute the scriptures of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, it can bring people. This Prabhupada is saying that this Bhagavatam is so important literature where it gives the awareness of what state we have gone through. Like in how we have gone through in the womb of mother. This modern science will not get to know. They'll just analyze, oh, he has gone through this stage. But the pain and tribulation, that you cannot understand. That only you can understand by Srimad Bhagavatam, which is giving the description all. And if we do not believe in the scripture, that is different question. But if we have faith in the authority of such description, then we must prepare for our freedom in the next life. That is possible in this human form of life. One who does not take heed of the indication of the suffering in human existence is said to be undoubtedly committing suicide. The Prabhupada uses this word, suicide. If we are not serious in the spiritual life, then indirectly we are committing suicide. Even Acharya say, Janiya Suniya Vishekhainu. So Acharya say that knowingly, unknowingly we ate poison. It is said that this human form of life is the only mean for crossing over the Nisayan of Maya or material existence. We have a very efficient boat in this human form of body, and there is a very expert captain, the spiritual master. The scriptural injunctions are like favorable winds. If we do not cross over the ocean of the Nisayans of material existence in spite of all these facilities, then certainly we are all intentionally committing suicide. So Prabhupada gives this conclusion that this human form of life is very rare. I told, like, out of 84 lakh species in a circle, we rotate and somehow we get this human form of life. And after getting that human form of life also, we are not serious. We are not serious about chanting. Sama chalega. We don't want to read. We don't want to understand Bhagavatam. We don't want to understand scriptures. Chalega. But we don't realize that this chalega process will not work. Once again we have to enter into the womb of the mother and suffer same tribulation. Birth, death, old age and disease. This is one part of tribulation which we go through birth. There's one more tribulation, death. That is very nicely explained in the story of in Bhagavatam 6th canto, Ajamila's pastime. This body we are very much attached. The attachment is extreme to this body. That's the reason when we see the mirror, we stand for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Acha. We decorate in different angles. Because that attachment is very strong. But we don't realize this body goes through 6 changes. It's called Shatvikar. Like it takes birth, it grows, it stays for some time, it starts dwelling, it starts deteriorating, and at last it's death. So this, at last we die. So this death also is very troublesome. It is said that it's like 14,000 Scorpio bite, because we are so much attached to this body. This soul, if the Yamudutas want to remove, they require so much energy. That's the reason you'll see in the pastime of Ajamila how they were just throwing a rope on the soul of Ajamila to bind him and pull him out. But he was not going out. He was very attached to his body. And that attachment was so strong, even Paramatma accompanies him. And it is described like he goes to a different loka, it's called Naraka, where he has to go through some tribulation so that he can accept that body. Just like if he wants to accept a body of a dog, he has to do some activities. Uh, you'll see a dog smelling and all, are forced to do that type of activities. Like pig example, many times it's in Bhagavatam. He is forced to eat the stool, and then he is transmigrated to that body, the stool body. So that is also a great revelation, but we don't understand that. We just neglect that. Even Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked by Yaksha Prakshana, okay, what is very wonderful in this material world? That people are dying, but I'll never die. Because we think that, oh, people are dying, but we think I'll never die. So that was wonder. So the solution which Bhagavatam gives in the last is that the mind has to be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. When there's a verse like Tad Darshana Dhvasta Samasta Kilbisha, just by having the transcendental, just seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, that all kalmashas, the impasse or impurities within the heart is just destroyed. And Prabhupada concludes that this chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only solution in this Kali Yuga. It is called Yuga Avatara, Satyavesha Avatar, how this holy name has incarnated in this age of Kali. Just by chanting this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just by chanting this holy name, we can cross the greatest danger of repeating this, entering into the womb of mother. But we have to chant with very utmost attention, constantly hearing, chanting and hearing. The process is nicely given by Prabhupada, that we have to hear, chant and hear attentively. Our mind is very tricky in this state of existence. Usually Kali Yuga, because it progresses more and more, and our mind is always disturbed for unwanted things. Small thing, there is a quarrel. And mind, what it does is, it wants always favorable situation. It does not take some tribulation or some reversals. It wants always favorable situations. And in that way, it cheats us always. Somehow it tricks us. But once we take this process of devotion or chanting the holy name of the Lord, that all kalmashas slowly go. But we have to be very determined. Somehow or other, I'll complete my rounds. Somehow or other, I'll sit and I'll complete my japa. That should be our motive. Somehow or other, I have to complete my japa. What is happening is, like, when you do japa, you're associating, you're in samadhi for 2 hours, not just 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Like Prabhupada says, that cumulative effect of impious activities, what we carry in the whole life, that's going to lead our future life. The same way, this Mahamantra, what we are chanting, is like a samadhi where we are constantly engaging daily, not just weekly once or monthly once or 15 days once. No, we are engaging daily our mind, our tongue, our senses in hearing and chanting the holy name. That will lead to our desired result. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a beautiful example of Haridas Thakur, the passing of Haridas Thakur, how Haridas Thakur passed from this material world. So there is a nice chapter in Antalila, if you can read, that is very good. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always in trance, and he was always performing his Sankirtana. And day and night, that program was always going on. It's not that different program, but constantly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was engaged in Sankirtana. And he used to attain Jagannath temple daily. He used to have, he used to see the beautiful form of Lord Jagannath, and then he performs his other rituals like what sannyasi does. At night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to discuss about the various pastimes of the Lord with his confidential devotees like Sarupa Damodara and Ramananda Raya. So this way, Lord passed his days in Nilachala, in Jagannath Puri. So in the Antya Leela, this section comes called the passing of Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur is known as Namacharya. He was born in a Mohammedan family, low born. But he was named as Namacharya. because he was propagating the holy name of the Lord, and he was himself practicing. He used to chant 3 lakh names of Hare Krishna Mahamantra daily without fail. He had one desire that before Lord winds up his pastime, before Lord goes back home, he winds up his Leela in this material world, he did not want to see that pastimes. He wanted to fall down at the lotus feet of the Lord and die, or go back home, back to Godhead. So Haridas Thakur had that desire. So one fine day, Govinda, the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, personal servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Haridas Thakur would never visit Jagannath temple because he was thinking himself a low-born, and how can he disturb the pujaris or the priest of Jagannath? He was thinking, I am so low-born that if they see me, they'll get contaminated, and how can they serve Lord in contaminated state of consciousness? So he had that state of he was in that state of bhakti where he was himself very humble. It's not that he was very proud and I'm great. No. So the Haridas Thakur, Govinda went to the place where Haridas Thakur was staying, and Govinda used to give daily prasadam of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the remnants which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to left. That he used to give to Haridas Thakur. And so that fine day he went there. And once he reached the place where Haridas Thakur was living, Bhagavatam, this Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Haridas Thakur was such an exalted devotee that even Maya Devi tested him. She came in a form of a beautiful woman and tried to entice him, but she also failed. Why she failed? Because Haridas Thakur was always engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. This is what we have to learn, the sadhakas we have to learn. That this chanting is so powerful that any material tribulations can be overcome and we can achieve the ultimate benefit. So the Haridas Thakur was in a very, he was not feeling well, and Govinda gave him prasadam of Jagannath. So Govinda said, "Oh Haridas, please take this Mahaprasadam I bought for you." So Haridas Thakur replied, "Oh Govinda, I cannot take that." So Govinda asked, "Why?" So the answer was that because I have not completed my chanting, and my state of existence is not in a proper. This my body is okay, but my mind and system is not good. So Govinda, but Haridas Thakur, because he saw Jagannath Prasadam, he cannot disobey that, he cannot neglect that. So he just honored little, just to respect the Mahaprasadam of the Lord. So he had little and just he was completing his japa. Because Haridas Thakur was in his last stage, he was not feeling well. And so next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to the place where Haridas Thakur was staying. So there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, "How are you, Haridas Thakur?" So Haridas Thakur replied was that my body is in a good stage, but my mind and my intelligence are not good. So he's giving a clear definition that my mind is not in a proper stage. My body is okay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that why don't you reduce your japa? Why don't you reduce? Because he was chanting 3 lakh names every day. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you reduce it. But Haridas Thakur was saying, no, my lord, I cannot do that. And at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu somehow consoles him, and and Haridas Thakur submits this request to Lord Chaitanya that, "Oh Lord, you're going to wind up your pastimes in this material world. I have one desire, one wish." Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not, he was like in the form of devotee, so he was little reluctant to give that wish and all. But he forcefully holds the feet of Lord and he requests one benediction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I should fall at your lotus feet, I should die at your lotus feet in the association of devotees. Even the sadhakas or we all should have that aspiration. Somehow or other I'll die in the association of devotees. Then only we can achieve the ultimate destination, because by our own strength it's not possible. Maya is very strong. in that pastime of Bhagavatam, it says that in this material world, nobody can surmount that strength of external energy in the form of women, or for women it is in the form of men. So it's very tough. Only Narnara and Rishi can cross over. So it's given a statement that only Narayana can cross over, but we living entities cannot. Even it gives example of Brahma got attracted to her daughter. In Bhagavatam it's there, and he ran behind. So it's very tough, but it can be very easy if we take the shelter of the Vaishnavas or devotees of the Lord. So Haridas Thakur had that wish, and he submitted that wish to Lord Chaitanya. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went for his afternoon rituals and duties, and next day he came to that same spot where Haridas Thakur was chanting, and he brought all Vaishnavas, devotees, and there was tremendous kirtan going on. There's a very loud Harinam going on, and in that state, Haridas Thakur submits to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he presents himself very humble. Means he gives a very humble statement that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very attached to Haridas Thakur, and he said, "How can you leave me? I cannot tolerate that." So Haridas Thakur gives the example like, I'm like an ant in this whole material world, and if one ant dies, there's no loss for this material world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur gives that example, and he humbly submits that, "Oh Lord, you have to favor me at any cost. There's no other way." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay, your wish will be fulfilled. And in that process, there's a kirtan going on, constant kirtan. Many Vaishnavas are playing mridangas, kartal, Vaksheshwar Pandit is dancing in ecstasy. And in that stage, Haridas Thakur leaves his body, holding tightly the feet of Lord Chaitanya. Imagine the fortune of Haridas Thakur. Even he was born in a low-born, like Bomedian family, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so much that even he got elevated to the topmost position, the Namacharya, Shilahari. So Haridas Thakur passed away, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became even more ecstatic, and he started holding the body of Haridas Thakur and dancing in ecstasy. And further, Swarupa Damodara, he performed all the rituals of Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was body was it was like a samadhi which was cremated in a sand beach, and the beautiful platform was arranged, and there was constant kirtan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately went to bazaar, the Anand Bazaar or some bazaar. He started begging Mahaprasad from all the shopkeepers. And seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begging, all the shopkeepers gave everything. Take. It became like a big queue. And Sarupa Damodar, Lord's personal associate, he stopped them. He told, only limited you have to give. You cannot give such much. And he made a queue, and that arrangement was made. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fed all the Vaishnavas sumptuously. And in that way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed the ritual of Haridas Thakur. So here you can see a different state of existence where devotees goes through. One state we die with tribulations, fear, living in a very dangerous stage where we don't know what is our destination. But once a devotee takes up, or someone takes up to this process of devotional service, that stage changes. There's no fear of death. Like many times Prabhupada gives example of a lion catching its cub and catching a prey. For devotee, this death is like a lion catching a cub or catching his child. Whereas for non-devotee, this lion is like catching a prey. For devotee, it feels like pleasure. Oh, my own master is catching me, and he feels safe. Whereas for non-devotee, is like catching a prey and is in a very fearful stage. Even in Prahlad Maharaj, he offers a beautiful prayer. He gives the situation of our existence in this material world. Balasya nehe sharanam pittaro narsimha nartasya jagadam uddhanvati muchitanho taptasya tap pratavir hiya chestas tavad vibhu tanubhitam tava upekshitanam. This word upekshitanam is more important, and Prabhupada also gives more importance on that word. And he says that upekshitanam means we have turned away our face from Supreme Lord to material things. And there Prahlad Maharaj gives series of ways where we try to protect our situation. Like we think that this hospital going to protect us from death. No chance. Even when I was just seeing some operations which were performed, usually that heart surgery they do many times. What they do is that they spray some because open heart surgery it's very risky, and there's new technologies coming in picture. So what they do is they cut this portion, and they change the wall and all. So they that connections for blood movement is given to machine, and this heart is freezed with some liquid nitrogen. There's a technology, in something. So they freeze that portion of heart, and then they do their surgery and all. Imagine that's a freezed heart, and they unfreeze it with some technology, and that heart has to pump now. It's not pumping. It's in a gone. So they have to give shock. There's a shock machine which are available in the market in the that operation theater. So doctor has to give a proper shock to that heart. Then it will start pumping. Tap tap tap. That's the reason you'll see many times they perform some heart surgery. They pump very hard because they think that the heart has stopped. Once it has stopped, they cannot revive it because they give shock because they don't know what's the cause of that getting stopped, or so they do all trial and error system. Like last week we heard Panduranga Prabhu was saying that class that how medical industry they cheat in the name of insurance and all, like old age home and all. Somehow they'll put in that situation, and they'll take money from insurance company and all. So we are in a very our state of existence is not a proper way. So only way we can get out of this state of existence or in is by devotional service. Just by engaging our mind, intelligence and body in devotional service, then only we can cross over this tribulation of birth, death, old age and disease. And Prabhupada concludes by saying that this chanting of holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, this is the only way. So further Prabhupada explains that example is given of Parishit Maharaj gave an example of many times we understand things, oh this is not good, but then also we fall to the same trap. So Parishit Maharaj gives example of Hasti Snan, like an elephant taking bath. It takes full bath for hours together. But when he comes out of the river in the shore, once again it pours mud on it. So this is what Prabhupada explains in this. It is said that when a woman is having a labor pain, she promises that she will never again become pregnant and suffer from such severely painful condition. Similarly, when one is undergoing some surgical operation, he promises that he will never again act in such a way as to become diseased and have to undergo medical surgery, or when one falls into danger. See here also, he promises that he will never again make the same mistake. Similarly, the living entity, when put into a hellish condition of life, prays to the Lord that he will never again commit sinful activities and have to be put into the womb for repeated birth and death. In the hellish condition within the womb, the living entity is very much afraid of being born again, but when he is out of the womb, when he is in full life and good health, he forgets everything and commits again and again the same sin for which he was put into that horrible condition of existence. So this Maya is so strong, it makes us forget. That's the reason Prabhupada says that the scriptures are so important. Just by reading, we can revive. We can understand. Usually, we don't know. It's just the mercy of Acharya or spiritual master we get to know. Usually, if you ask outside, what you have gone through, you have gone through tribulation in your womb of mother. They'll say, no, no. This we don't remember. Also, we don't. Anyone remembers? No, we forget. So that's the nature of this material world. It will make you forget. Even if you go through some tribulation for months together, once you recover, you forget after few months. And the same thing repeats. But this bhakti, the devotion is so strong that it can cross all this. It will make. It's like the process is very full proof. There's no ambiguity in that process. Once we take to this devotion of chanting, starts with Shravanam, hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanimedanam. So this 9 process of bhakti can cross this, even Prabhupada says, this nescience of this material world can be crossed by this bhakti. So the conclusion I want to say is like, we read about this journey. Our life is like a journey from B to D, from birth to death. So in this journey, we think that we have big plans and all, but we don't see the traps, which makes us further repetition of birth and death cycle. It goes on. And we saw how this child in the womb of a mother goes through so much tribulations. It goes in an unconscious state, and it is suffering because of mother eating some chili powder or some very pungent or spicy things. The child suffers, and it becomes unconscious in the womb of a mother. And once it comes out also, all relatives are very happy and they love, oh, child. In that he gets even more entangled. And we heard the process of death is also very painful, because we are very much attached to this body. We don't want to leave that body. So we heard that. And the process to come out of that cycle is by devotional service. And we saw the example of how once, if DOD, like Haridas Thakur, how so with that I'll end today. Any questions? Something you want to ask? Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah. No, thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki